You ever wake up thinking your biggest problem is going to be breakfast, scrambled eggs, or pancakes, only to find your entire world turned upside down before you can even finish your first cup of coffee? Yeah, that was me, Vincent Watson, out at my lakeside cabin in Wyoming, just me and Scout, my golden retriever, thinking the day was going to be as peaceful as the sunrise. I should have known better. You know what I mean? The universe has a sense of humor, and sometimes you're the punchline. Because right then, before the caffeine even kicked in, I hear this rumble. Not just one engine, but a whole caravan, tearing down my dirt road like they're late to a fire sale. Leading the pack, waving a clipboard like it's the Ten Commandments, is Abigail Gonzalez, the infamous president of our HOA, dressed to the nines in her "I'm very important" outfit, storming toward my fence with the confidence of a five-star general. And behind her, 8 people looking like they'd just lost their homes to some natural disaster. Except, in designer jeans, perfect makeup, and not a speck of mud on any of them. If this was the aftermath of a flood, it was the cleanest catastrophe in American history. Scout starts this low growl in his throat, which, honestly, I should have paid more attention to. That dog has better instincts about people than most folks I've met. Abigail yells out my full name, making it sound like I'm about to get sent to the principal's office. These families have been displaced by the water emergency, she declares, and as HOA president, I'm designating your cabin an official shelter. The way she says it, you'd think she was about to be knighted by the governor. But my military brain's already running threat assessment. Nothing about this group fits. They're all sipping Starbucks, carrying matching Louis Vuitton luggage, and one woman is snapping selfies like my cabin's a backdrop for her influencer feed. Another guy, Robert, is pacing around, talking loudly about Wi-Fi and social media updates. Suddenly I realize, these aren't evacuees. I know these faces. Jennifer, Abigail's cousin, lives in a mansion up the road. Robert, her nephew, is some hotshot tech guy. I call them out on it. Right there, cup of coffee still in hand, not even bothering to set it down. You should have seen Abigail's face, like she'd bitten into a lemon, realized it was plastic, and tried to swallow it anyway. She goes from shock to raging in about 3 seconds, shrieking about her authority, while waving that clipboard so hard I'm surprised it didn't take flight. Meanwhile, her displaced families put on their best community theater performances, Jennifer gesturing to invisible kids, Robert pretending his $5 coffee is medicine for a non-existent baby. I keep scanning for hidden cameras, half expecting some prank show host to jump out from behind a tree yelling, "Gotcha." But then I catch something that sends a chill down my spine. Jack, my neighbor from across the street, is filming everything on his phone. Jack's a quiet guy, but the way he's documenting the scene tells me he's not just a bored bystander. Is he collecting evidence, or something else? Abigail's mask starts slipping as her little show unravels. The evacuees can't keep their story straight. Champagne bottles come out, sunglasses are adjusted, and their fake desperation turns into real discomfort when they realize I'm not buying any of it. That's when I notice fresh tire tracks around my cabin. Somebody's been circling the place, and the footprints leading up to my window are too small to be Abigail's. Someone's been watching me sleep. The next morning, before sunrise, I wake up to Scout losing his mind. Abigail is back, but now her group has badges, reflective vests, and hard hats that look like they were ordered off a costume website. She claims they're here for a mandatory safety inspection. Her speech is even more official, her props even more ridiculous, but I see through it. Especially when she hands me a laminated emergency declaration that looks like a 6th grader's science project. I tell her I already called county emergency services. The woman on the phone, Patricia, laughed out loud when I asked about Abigail's coordinator. Abigail doesn't back down, she doubles down. Now her crew starts fanning out, measuring nothing, banging on windows, shouting for me to unlock the cabin for just 5 minutes. That word, unlock, starts gnawing at me. Why not just let us in? What are they after that requires a key? Suddenly Jack, still quietly filming from the edge, whispers to me that Abigail's after something buried under my cabin. Then, like he's the protagonist in a spy movie, he disappears before I can get another word out of him. That night, Jack meets me under the old oak tree with a manila envelope stuffed with old photos, letters, and documents. He tells me the former owner of my cabin, William Hartford, hid something valuable under the foundation: cash, gold, or maybe just documents worth millions to the right people. Abigail's whole emergency was a cover story to get inside and dig. Turns out Jack was recruited by Abigail to spy on me, to monitor my routines, even to document my security. His neighborly gestures were surveillance. But somewhere along the way, he realized Abigail was obsessed and dangerous. He hands me evidence, texts, printed emails, a detailed floor plan of my cabin. Abigail's been planning a legal case for adverse possession, trying to create a paper trail that the community needs access and that I'm unreasonably denying it. She wants to steal my property, not just whatever's hidden underneath. That night, we watch from the woods as Abigail and her family return, sneaking around with metal detectors and digging equipment. They're desperate, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Jack and I photograph everything. If this ends up in court, we're going to need more than just my word. The next morning is a disaster zone. My yard is torn up, my fence is smashed, there are champagne bottles and abandoned shoes everywhere. Abigail's convoy shows up again, but this time, she's wild-eyed, covered in mud, her designer clothes ruined. She's carrying a shovel and looks ready to dig straight through me if I get in her way. Her family trails behind, exhausted, their luxury lifestyles reduced to chaos. Abigail loses it, starts attacking my cabin, screaming about a map her father drew and treasure that should have been ours. For a second, as she smashes the wall, I almost feel bad for her. Almost. That's when Jack steps out, calls her Aunt Abigail, and everything clicks. He's family. He's been torn between loyalty to them and trying to protect me. When Abigail hears Jack's betrayal, she breaks, sobbing, screaming that she waited 40 years for this, and now even her family's against her. The sheriff arrives just in time to see the spectacle and hauls Abigail away in handcuffs. But even as they're taking her, she's still yelling about treasure, convinced that millions are buried under my floor. 3 days later, I finally get up the nerve to check the basement, the one I'd never explored in the 3 years since I bought the place. It's your classic, unfinished 1970s space: concrete, dust, storage boxes. But then, in the far wall, I spot an old safe, built into the foundation, heavy-duty and serious. Around it, folders and boxes with legal documents, water rights, surveyor maps from the 1990s. Turns out, Hartford wasn't hiding gold. He was hiding evidence, proof he owned the water rights everyone wanted for lakeside development. And the developers, including Abigail's family, had spent decades trying to force him out. The journal entries I find are the real treasure, a record of threats, harassment, shady offers. And then I find the kicker: mention of tribal land rights that were never properly transferred. If true, this doesn't just shake up my property, it could unravel ownership for the entire lake. Jack and I barely have time to process all this before Abigail's lawyer shows up, briefcase in hand, offering a partnership in exchange for dropping all charges. But with the tribal council now involved, things are way bigger than Abigail's family drama. Turns out, the second safe, yes, there's a second safe, contains original treaties and sacred items proving the land was never legally purchased from the tribe. Suddenly, the story isn't about gold, it's about history, about rights, about correcting wrongs nobody wanted to admit. Abigail's lawyer tries every trick in the book, but the tribal representative, Ellie Crow Feather, is having none of it. She lays out the law, and in the end, a cultural stewardship agreement is reached. The artifacts are protected, the property is co-managed, and Abigail, after serving her sentence, leaves town for good. 6 months later, I'm back on my porch with Scout, watching a blessing ceremony by the lake, the land now recognized for its true value. History, not dollars. Jack's the community liaison for the new stewardship program, and the old electronic gate now welcomes visitors to a cultural center instead of just keeping out trespassers. Sometimes, when the wind's right, I'll hear a car slow down on the road out front. Maybe it's Abigail, maybe it's just my imagination, but either way, I know some obsessions never die. So let me ask you, if you'd found all that in your basement, would you have kept it quiet or done the right thing and called the tribe? Think Abigail's family will ever let it go? Or is this story just getting started? Drop your thoughts below and tell me what state you're watching from. Justice, family, community. What matters most when everything's on the line? Let's hear your stories. And hey, If this wild ride kept you hooked, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stick around for the next one. You never know what's buried right under your feet.